A movie made for less than $1 million is one of the most profitable films of the year. And the craziest part? The director started on YouTube. Obsession shocked an entire industry. And nobody saw it coming. Except maybe the algorithm. This is not $1 million idea. This is a million-view idea. A boy wishes his crush would fall in love with him. The wish comes true. And that wish becomes the worst thing that has ever happened to him. That is the entire premise of Obsession. Simple, cheap, emotionally devastating. And somehow, it has become one of the most talked about films of the year. This is not a story about budget. This is a story about what happens when someone spends their money on exactly the right thing. Let's talk about it. Before we talk about the craft, let us talk about the idea. Because the idea is where everything starts. Bear is in love with Nikki. He has been for a long time. She does not feel the same way. He finds a supernatural object, a one-wish willow, and makes a wish. He wishes for her love, and he gets it. Be careful what you wish for. Now, here's what makes this premise so effective. It is not original in concept. Wish Gone Wrong stories are as old as storytelling itself. The Monkey's Paw, Aladdin, every fairy tale ever written. But Obsession does something most Wish Gone Wrong stories don't. It does not make the horror about a monster. It does not make the horror about a curse. It makes the horror about a relationship. Nikki does not become dangerous because she is evil. She becomes dangerous because she loves Bear, with a completeness that has no boundaries. No limits, no off switch. The monster in this film is not something that crawls out of a dark room. The monster is intimacy, taken too far. And that's a version of horror we don't see nearly as often. Now look at where this film takes place. A music store, a house, the street outside, a friend's place. That is essentially it. No elaborate sets, no expensive locations, no world-building budget. And looking at this film, it is hard not to see that as a deliberate choice, rather than a limitation. Because every horror film that builds an elaborate world, a haunted mansion, a remote island, an underground facility, is spending money on atmosphere, on the feeling that something terrible could be anywhere. Obsession doesn't need that, because the terrible thing is already specific. It is not anywhere. It is in the house. It is the person Bear thought he wanted. When horror is this focused, you do not need a world. You need a room, and two people inside it. The restraint here is not cheap filmmaking. It is precise filmmaking. There is a difference. Most horror films are built around fear of the unknown. The thing in the dark, the figure at the end of the hallway, the sound with no explanation. Obsession is built around fear of something far more uncomfortable. Being loved by someone you can no longer trust. Think about what that actually means. Nikki is not a villain. She does not choose to become what she becomes. She is a victim of the wish as much as Bear is. And yet, she is terrifying. That is the hardest thing to pull off in horror. A character who is simultaneously sympathetic and threatening, innocent and dangerous. Someone you feel for, and someone you are afraid of, at the exact same time. That kind of horror does not require special effects. It does not require a budget. It requires a performance. Inde Navarrette's performance as Nikki is the kind that stays with you, long after the film ends. Some fans and critics have gone as far as calling it one of the greatest horror performances they have seen. Whether you agree or not, the fact that people are saying it at all, about a film this small, tells you something about what is happening on screen. Now, the person behind it? Curry Barker started making films on YouTube. His previous film had a budget that most people spend on a weekend. It has become hard not to see YouTube's influence everywhere. On YouTube, attention is earned. Nobody cares about your budget. People either keep watching or they leave. And Obsession feels like a film made by someone who understands that instinctively. A boy A wish. A love that becomes a nightmare. Shot in normal rooms. On a budget that most productions spend on catering. Obsession wasn't built around a monster. It was built around a feeling. And feelings are still the cheapest special effect in filmmaking.